our word of the week. Presage, which means a warning of what's to come or an omen. As in, it was a presage of an impending breakdown that finally motivated me to outfit my car with an emergency kit.
I'm fearless in business and can watch any scary movie, but when it comes to pain, I'm a total baby. So I went to Lori Dorman of The Birth Connection, who helps women conquer pain in labor and every day.
My aim is not to teach you how to eliminate pain, because you're going to have pain. You're having a baby. But what we can do is we can change your perception about pain.
Unlike other hypnotherapists, Lori's aim is not to teach you to ignore your pain, but for you to learn how to manage it naturally. Besides breathing and relaxing, moms-to-be are also trained to release their own endorphins.
When you are having an endorphin release in labor, you look like this.
Okay, I'm in. What do I do?
So I want you to go ahead and just push yourself back in the chair. And you're just gonna follow along with the information. And now you feel numb from the top of your head all the way down to the tips of your toes. Heavy and weighted down. Perfect. And now, if I put pressure into your inner thigh, remember, it's only pressure. So if I put this much pressure, it tells you to relax even more. Open your eyes. Good. How'd that feel?
Good.
So what I want to do now is I want to show you what you did experience when we used all the little tools of turning things off and on. So if I go into your leg and I put the amount of pressure into it that you just...
Really?
Yeah, I did it deeper than that.
Oh my God.
A funny thing happened when I gave birth to Lilia. I decided to accept my fear of pain and take drugs. Still, it's nice to know that somewhere I do have the ability to manage it on my own.
I have a good friend you guys know, I'm not telling her name, who's afraid of the dark. Are you afraid of the dark?
Like as a grown-up?
Yes. She sleeps with the closet light on.
Wow. See, I love the dark.
the
That's when I
dark,
feel like I can
too.
relax. Okay, it's like everything is settled for the day. I can just let go in the dark.
I don't know if I love it, but I mean, she ought to get a nightlight. She leaves
Yeah.
a closet light on, oh my
I'm
gosh.
afraid of bumping into things, but you know. You know what I'm afraid of?
What?
Offending people if they've had a tragedy, like if someone's died, or what do you say? What do you guys do?
I send a card because I don't always know what to say. I could go one direction, but it may not be appropriate. You know, I may want to say something, and I feel the best thing to do is if I write my thoughts down. It's hard.
Like the only thing when my mom died, when people would say, I know how you're feeling, I'm like, you know what? You don't know how I'm feeling. And I sort of, it didn't offend me, but now I always think, gosh, I'm sure there are things that I say to people that upset them. And you try so hard to be nice, but have you ever said anything totally inappropriate?
What about if you ask someone when they're due? And they're not even pregnant, excuse me. That happened to a family member of mine. She was at the grocery store and was going through the line and said, when are you due? And the worst thing was she had like an entire week's worth of groceries. The lady was ringing them up. She goes, I'm not. Oh, she was
So
like,
you just had to stand there
well,
forever?
hello, what do you do? I was like, why don't you just push your cart out of the way and go home?
The modern malady? Sticking your foot in it. Here's our modern girl prescription. Avoid embarrassment in the first place by knowing what to say in these scary situations. You bump into an old friend and she looks pregnant.
Let's say you put your foot in your mouth and you say to a friend, oh, when are you expecting? And you find out they're not having a baby. The only thing to do in a situation like this is take the focus off weight, because that's what most people think you're talking about. Focus to, you know, your complexion is so radiant and that's what a pregnant woman looks like. How do you do it?
A friend asks you out on a date and you really wish he hadn't.
Let's say a friend asks you out and he's only a friend. And that's all you want. So you have to focus on what you want, not what you don't want. So you say to him, what I really want, what I treasure is our friendship. What I don't want is to move this relationship to an intimate level.
An acquaintance is bad-mouthing a mutual friend.
If somebody's talking negatively about a person that you really like, you have to be careful. You have to validate their feelings and their point of view at the same time, not giving in on your point of view. So you say to them, I understand, you sound very frustrated. I, on the other hand, have a different experience with this person. I've always had positive things to say about them.
And no one ever seems to know quite what to say when a friend loses someone they love.
What happens when you ask a friend how their mother's doing and you find out the mother's passed away? Well, you have to focus on the person you're talking to, not the person who's passed away. For example, you'd say, I'm so sorry to hear that. How are you doing? Tragedy impacts people different ways. So ask them a question. Ask them if they'd like to talk about it. then they at least have the choice.
So remember, be thoughtful and direct, and you too can overcome your fear of failure when it comes to knowing what to say when. Coming up next, afraid of the dark, spiders, heights, how to deal with your own fear factor. Sometimes you learn something new and just have to share it with your friends, like this trick. Afraid of getting shortchanged after handing over a big bill to a cashier? Next time, make it a point to glance at the last 4 digits of the serial number. Keep them in your mind while your cashier makes change. If she insists it was a 10 and not a 20, you've got the goods. Try it yourself and pass it on. Afraid of the dark, spiders, heights? You're not alone. An estimated 1 in 10 of us has or will have a specific fear or phobia. Some fears are rational. In fact, they're healthy.
If you're walking around on top of a 10-story building and you get too close to the edge, you want to feel fear because that's going to be something that protects you and keeps you safe.
But when you know your fear is way out of line with any likely consequences, it's probably something you should get a handle on.
So you really got to be able to address something like a phobia at its source, which is the unconscious level. When you do that, it's possible to overcome a phobia literally in 5 minutes.
That might sound overly simple to someone who's been too afraid to ever get on a plane. But some experts say that just by taking your own confidence into a fearful situation, you can turn your phobias around.
So we may say things like, so where in your life do you feel confident? Well, I feel it on the basketball court. Now, while they're there in that very positive state, we're going to ask them to go ahead and think about the feared stimulus again. And what will end up happening is they will now link up the powerful, resourceful state with that trigger.
So the next time you find yourself fearing something you know you shouldn't, remember the last time you felt confident, and maybe it won't seem so scary after all.
There is this universal male fear of commitment, and everyone writes about it and does movies about it and so on, and it's become a cliche, but I think it's absolutely true. The idea that when you get married, you're only going to have sex with one person for the rest of your life, that you have to get committed to one person. On some deep biological level, I think men are frightened of that. There are certain social situations that I fear. To actually have a confrontation with someone and to not let your emotions get away with you, I find that really hard. I'm not saying that's a man thing or a woman thing, but it's certainly a Marcus thing.
Of course there are times we're all going to be frightened. But whether it's giving birth or getting naked, don't let the fear control you. Just face it head on. All you need is your guide.